Cacus was a fearsome giant and legendary monster in Roman mythology, remembered as one of the earliest enemies defeated in the land that would later become Rome. Although he appears only briefly in ancient literature, his story became one of the most famous myths connected to the origins of the city. Roman writers portrayed Cacus as a savage creature who lived in a dark cave beneath the Aventine Hill, where he terrorized the surrounding countryside through violence, theft, and murder. His defeat at the hands of Hercules symbolized the triumph of civilization over chaos, making the legend an important part of Rome's mythical past. According to Roman tradition, Cacus was often described as the son of Vulcan, the Roman god of fire and metalworking. Despite his divine ancestry, he was nothing like the skilled craftsman associated with his father. Instead, Cacus embodied destruction and brutality. Ancient authors described him as enormous in size and terrifying in appearance, with immense physical strength and the supernatural ability to breathe fire and smoke. His cave was said to be filled with the bones and skulls of his victims, reflecting his reputation as a ruthless killer who preyed upon anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. To the local people, he represented constant fear and lawlessness in a region that had not yet developed into an organized society. The most famous episode involving Cacus occurred during the journey of Hercules across Italy. After completing his 10th labor by stealing the magnificent cattle of the giant Geryon, Hercules drove the herd through central Italy on his way home. While the hero rested near the Tiber River, Cacus secretly stole several of the finest cattle. To conceal his crime, he dragged the animals backward into his cave so that their hoof prints appeared to lead away from the entrance rather than toward it. This clever trick confused anyone attempting to follow the tracks and briefly prevented Hercules from discovering where the missing cattle had been hidden. The deception came to an end when the stolen cattle answered the calls of the remaining herd. Hearing the sounds coming from inside the cave, Hercules immediately realized that Cacus had taken them. Enraged by the theft, he confronted the monster at the entrance to his fortress. Ancient accounts describe a violent battle in which Cacus hurled enormous rocks and filled the cave with smoke and flames in an attempt to stop the hero. Hercules, relying on his unmatched strength, forced his way through the entrance and fought Cacus in close combat. After a fierce struggle, Hercules overpowered the giant and killed him, freeing the region from one of its greatest threats. The death of Cacus was celebrated by King Evander, the Arcadian ruler of the nearby settlement of Pallanteum. Grateful for the destruction of the monster, Evander and his people honored Hercules with sacrifices and established the Ara Maxima, or Great Altar of Hercules, in the Forum Boreum. This sanctuary became one of the oldest and most respected religious sites in Rome, and generations of Romans continued to worship Hercules there. Through this tradition, the defeat of Cacus became permanently linked with the sacred history of the city and with the belief that heroic virtue had protected the region long before Rome itself was founded. Although modern historians regard the story as mythology rather than historical fact, Cacus held an important symbolic role in Roman culture. He represented disorder, greed, violence, and the dangers that existed before the establishment of law and civilization. Hercules, by defeating him, became a symbol of justice, courage, and the restoration of peace. Roman writers often use the legend to illustrate the victory of order over chaos and the responsibility of heroes to protect society from destructive forces. Cacus remains one of the most memorable monsters in Roman mythology, not because he conquered kingdoms or fought great armies, but because his downfall marked the beginning of a safer and more civilized landscape in the legendary history of Italy. His battle with Hercules became one of the earliest heroic tales associated with the future city of Rome, connecting the famous Greek hero to Roman tradition and reinforcing the idea that the land destined to become the eternal city had already witnessed extraordinary deeds long before Romulus laid its first foundations.